Hi, this is Dean Hanley from Dean's Cards. Probably the most confusing thing about this hobby is how to grade vintage cards. We get a lot of questions about it. In-house, we've been grading for a dozen years. We have large scans of each card online so you can see for yourself. This video you're about to see is an internal training video. This was done for a new hire class here at Dean's Cards. The lady giving the presentation is Elena Winget. Elena currently handles our complete sets. We sell hundreds of complete sets a year. They're the best in the hobby, and Elena is the reason for this. Elena is also our purchasing manager. Her and I work together to purchase about 500 personal collections a year. So if you're selling a collection, you'll probably eventually talk to Elena and I on the phone. Without further ado, my friend and colleague, Elena Winget.
Some people use the grading page more than others. I like it. My mom actually worked here before me, and whenever she was grading a box of cards, she always had the grading page up. I mean, it was like basically her Bible. Yeah. But Dean never really looks at it. I don't really think Zach uses it, so it's just kind of personal preference. But it's a good handbook.
Dean wrote the grading page.
Yeah, Dean wrote it, but he doesn't look at it all that often. So to get to it, you basically just go to our home page, and then you'll see that's how we grade sports cards. And then the top basically gives an overview. I'm sure by now you've seen we have the Dean's Cards graded cards, and then we have the PSA graded cards. So PSA is a third-party authentication service, and we, for the most part, go by their standards. So a lot of our grading standards that you'll see on this page, we basically took from PSA's website. Because PSA is a third-party authenticator, they get the benefit of a doubt sometimes, and so because of that, we almost have to be a little bit more conservative and a little harder on the grading than PSA. And so the grading scale is actually a 10-point scale. So PSA, the top grade is a Gem Mint 10. Probably won't find any of those around here. They rarely give them out. So basically we use an 8-point scale. Here at Dean's Cards, 8 is the top grade, and that's near mint mint. But on the cards, if it's an 8, it'll be an 8, and then it'll say like NM-MT, so that means near mint mint. And so these pictures depict the near mint mint 8 cards. Typically on a near mint mint card, if you hold it from here, you're not going to see anything wrong with it. It's going to look perfect. But then if you like start to look up closely, you might see like a print dot or a defect or like a slightly touched corner. But for the most part, they look perfect. The near mint mint cards pretty much have to be centered 60-40 or better on the front. And then the back, you'll see where they have the statistics, that they're a little bit more generous. That's typically 90-10. Just as long as statistics aren't like cut off, you're pretty much good. And then the next grade down is near mint. A near mint is a 7 on the 10-point scale. So a near mint card, they're a little easier on the center. Those have to be 70-30 instead of the 60-40. Okay. And then a near mint, they can have some print flaws. Some of the cards you'll see might have like a little waxing on the back from where there was like wax in the old wax bags, or if there was gum sticking to it, you'll see a little stain. And so the near mints can have like a little bit of a wax stain on the back of the card. But the centering has to be 70-30 on the front and 90-10 on the back. And then the near mint cards, you might see like a slight touch on one or two corners. That's the other thing. I mean, most of the cards that came off the printing presses weren't 8s. I mean, they're not 8s today, and they probably weren't 8s back then either. Especially when you get back into the 50s, I mean, most of the cards are a 5 at best coming off the printing press, just because things were new. They weren't exact yet. So The 70s are a little bit better, but you will notice that the 70s, they kind of downgraded the grade of paper stock they use. So a lot of the 70s cards have rough edges. I just try and ignore that for the most part. So after a near mint, the next grade down would be an excellent mint, and that's a 6 on the 10-point scale. If you look at these pictures, especially the Harmon Killebrew, you'll see that the centering isn't that of a near mint or a near mint card. So the excellent mint rule of thumb is typically 80-20 on the front and then the 90-10 on the reverse. And then an excellent mint, it's still not going to have fuzzy corners. It's still considered a high grade card, but you'll probably see 2 or 3 touch corners. So the step down from excellent mint is excellent, and those are a 5 on a 10-point scale. And excellent cards typically have to be 85-15 or better on the front, and then the same 90-10 on the back. So if you look at these pictures, the Jim Palmer is an excellent, mainly because of the centering. And then the John Unitas, that one's harder to see because that card's well centered, but it's because of the corners that it's a 5. Just as long as the card isn't, the picture on the card isn't going off the side, it can pretty much be a 5. Excellent cards can have 4 touch corners. Like all 4 corners can be touched, but they're still not going to be rounded or fuzzy. So a very good / excellent card is a 4, and it can have a little bit of a wrinkle or a light crease, but rarely do we give crease cards in VGX. And then if you look at like the Mays and the Koufax, you'll see those corners, like the bottom corners on both the Mays and the Koufax. Those I would call, I don't know, rounded or fuzzy as compared to touched. So very good is a step down from VGX. So those are a 3 on a 10-point scale. And like I said before, those will have creases and they're going to have rounded corners. That Ted Klaczewski card, that's your standard very good card. I mean, the centering's not great, and then it's got the almost rounded corners. So a good card, as you can see on Clemente, it might have some paper loss on the front, where, I mean, if the face is ripped off, it's not a good, it's a fair or poor, but if there's just like a little bit of paper loss in the background, then it's a good. Good cards can have writing. If somebody wrote their whole name on the front of the card, I'd probably just throw it away. But if they just have like a pen mark on the front, that can be a good. And then if there's writing on the back, if somebody wrote their whole name or something like that, you can call it a good. So then, fair and poor, the card has to be intact. It can't be missing a corner or anything like that, but the card's probably going to have multiple heavy creases through the face, and it's not going to have a whole lot of eye appeal. So to me, the Harmon Killebrew is a pretty good example of a fair. And then this card next to it, the Yankees Power Hitters, that one's obviously missing a corner. So something like that would be an example of a poor card.
I hope that was informative. If you ever have any more questions on how to grade cards, please go to our website, deanscards.com. We have hundreds of thousands of graded cards online, images that can be expanded, large scans of the cards, so you can see all the details. If we could ever help you with anything as far as questions, if you're selling cards or looking to buy cards, we'd love to hear from you. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.